our intrepid adventurers. We were chasing a giant murder ball.
Murder ball?
Yes. Yes, there was at least 3 distinct groups of murderers ahead of us. And we did a forced march thing to catch up with at least one of them.
I think it was tabled that you murder everyone in sight too.
Yeah.
Odds are you'll kill a murderer.
That was our fallback plan.
It was just go to the next town, kill everyone, and then there are only 6 murderers left in that game.
Yeah. Then we can just turn on each other.
I take it you have 6 party members.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know if Cricket would count as a murderer, though. Anyway, she's more of a deadly weapon.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Like, would my dog be considered a murderer?
What if she was left to her own devices? What if someone said, do whatever you want for the next hour, and then she murdered someone?
She's sentient after all.
Is she still responsible, or is it the person who said do whatever you want? That's a little bit borderline.
Yeah, it's like, pulling the pin on the grenade, tossing it into a crowd, and shouting, do whatever you want!
It might not be
disclaiming responsibility.
It's like leaving
I definitely
got no safety on.
Yeah.
Keeping on an edge in a nursery.
Yeah.
Well, but what if you didn't know that the domestic would murder during that time? It becomes a little bit more.
Domestics don't kill people; people kill people.
Yeah. It's more like negligence causing death.
You know what? Maybe we should
they do
regulate and record all domestics just to be the safe. Some sort of control on them.
Yeah. They do have the
domestic control laws.
They do have the equivalent of the 3 laws sort of thing going. They get trained with a default. This is how you should behave in absence of any orders.
And if they break those, then they're feral. So they're basically
So
it doesn't really matter if they're a murderer anyway.
Yeah. Good to like, is a Rottweiler that's eaten someone's face a murderer? It doesn't matter. You can just put it down.
Is there a powerful political organization called the NDA?
Yeah.
National Domestic Association.
There is, but we can't talk about it.
And there's Carlton Cheston leading them.
I have no idea. I don't know if that would be strictly analogous. That would be more like magic sword control or something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
My cold dead hand.
So, we arrive in town, and everyone makes their endurance checks, except Cricket, who's completely wasted from the march. But fortunately, all that does is take off a couple of healing surges from her, so it's bearable.
Yeah, I probably should have done something worse since you failed it so badly, but I couldn't think of anything at the time.
I couldn't think all rolls.
That seemed too harsh.
Diarrhea.
I couldn't think of anything that was. I couldn't think of anything that was bad enough to notice, but not
with your phasing
too
diarrhea.
harsh. John had went with something that was relevant.
Came up with it.
I know, but we don't have to try and put phasing diarrhea into everything.
We're going to work it in.
I mean, obviously, phasing diarrhea can get into everything.
Yeah. How was that tea you just had? Phasing diarrhea.
Anyway.
So yeah, they arrive at 2 in the morning,
and there's like this group of people having a bonfire
a ways off, because they come into the north side of town, and off the ways off the path, there's like a fire in a camp.
And we would investigate that, but the very next thing that happens is in the local inn, which is a little 2-story structure. There's a big explosion in the upper story, and a guy gets blown out the window.
Oh.
And we're all like, that's more interesting than a bonfire.
Technically, the guy flying out the window was slightly after the explosion.
Okay, so there's an explosion, and then a guy goes hurtling out the window.
Yeah. And it's actually a fairly small town, not tiny, but like the biggest structure by far is this inn, and they're just in the middle of looking at it all the upper windows shatter and the.
So we decide to investigate that. So we run over to this guy that's got blown out the window. And, hey, it's Henry. That's the...
Actually, come to think of it, the guy didn't blow out the window because at that moment, because you guys ran up, and at that moment is when he flew out the window, because Aurora caught him.
Oh, right.
She failed her roll, but he rolled super high because he's an assassin guy, and he ended up being caught by her.
Yeah,
and
that's right. Okay, so there's an explosion, then we run over, then the guy goes hurtling out the window.
All right.
And it's Henry, the guy, the assassin guy.
The Eve Hunter rogue.
The Eve Hunter, yes. So,
So you struck him
we're
off
like,
the list?
hey, Henry, what up? You know?
I remember exactly what he said, but he's like, the butcher's inside there, come on!
Yeah,
And he runs back inside the inn.
which is on fire, by the way.
Yeah.
And so we're like, oh, well, someone's going to get killed and someone needs to be saved. So we haven't figured out which yet.
We'll adjudicate.
We'll figure it out on the fly.
They could both need to be killed.
That's kind of, yeah.
At this point, just kill them all.
Let the gods sort them
So we run up there, and sure enough, Henry and what was the other guy's name? Calvin. I keep forgetting the other guy's
Calvin
name.
the mage is standing outside the door, backing away from the door, and he's like, Henry, get up here! I need your help! And he's sort of freaking out.
And so we all run up there, and we all cram ourselves into this little tiny room again. We like the little tiny room fights, it seems. And sure enough, the guy that was the baker over in Valneva, who's the alleged Butcher of Bracken Ridge, is in there, and they were trying to murderize him.
Oh, right, because Henry got there first and shouted out the window, or shouted to him, wait, we just want to talk to you.
Make a phone call.
Which actually Serendipity stayed outside the inn, so she saw that the old guy was trying to climb out the window to escape, and when he said that, he climbed back in, and I think only Croesus made his insight check. That's like the same power they used on them in the fight to like basically plant suggestion and control them for one round. So the old guy was climbing out the window, and the rogue was like, no, wait, we just want to talk to you. And he's like, yeah, okay. And he came back into the room for one round.
Now, these two guys, these crazed Eve Hunters, these bloodthirsty maniacs and stuff, they're totally like, yeah, let's kill this old guy. And then we show up. And we're like, no, we should figure out whether he's actually the Butcher of Bracken Ridge before you kill him, for crying out loud. This is the whole thing we had when we first met.
Yeah,
you know?
they agreed.
Remember when we first met and we killed like 6 of your friends? Because all we saw was you were trying to murder this old man in the street? Look what it looks like again.
So they promised that, yes, we're just going to knock him out. And I think at least some people made their insight check, and they're on the level in the sense that because the party is here now, their intent is to knock them out because they know that if they don't, the party will kill them. Yeah. So like they're not intending to betray the party unless they can get away with it, and they don't think they can. So they're not going to kill them; they're going to knock them out. Now
we had some diverse opinions here. At this point, I felt that even knocking him out was a little bit overly violent when we can just sort of say, okay, everyone, let's all go into a room and hash this out, whatever, because he's some old guy, he's not, and we're like 8, adventurer types with swords and stuff. We can.
You could get him.
Yeah, we can just go. We don't need to knock him out.
But Calvin and Henry are like, no, they're gotten away too many times. We've got to knock him out and completely subdue him, and then we can submit him to the authorities.
And I can't remember everyone else's opinions on the matter, but we had diverse opinions. And we were all crammed together in this little room.
And the fight is going on,
and the room's on fire.
Because like Henry and Calvin are like Calvin's shooting the bells at him, and they're attacking him, and Hank is
in the front of the inn.
It's in the old guy's room, which is all on fire.
Does it have a desk and Hank's falling off?
There is a desk there, but we weren't on the desk.
I think Hank was on the bed.
Yeah,
but
he was, because I remember something that happened later on that involved him being on the bed a lot. So anyway,
but it was really great because the combat was going on, but everyone was like shouting and voicing their opinions, and emotions were running high.
Who was allies with whom? And Henry, the assassin guy, went to go and stab the old guy non-lethally. And so I used Guardian's Counter to take the stab. And so then Henry is like, the domestic's turned. She's helping the Eve.
I knew it. The Eves are sticking together.
Yeah. Oh man, it was really stupid. But I'm not really sure how he could have done it smarter because everyone had different opinions on what was smart.
And they were trying to also get the old guy to surrender, but he was just freaking out like, these insane people are trying to kill me again.
Yes, and these other insane people are trying to help you, so calm down.
Yeah, it's like the encounter I had with the goblin, and every party member is talking to him like in a different way, and he's just like,
yeah.
So, the old guy's totally freaking out and just like, you gotta help me, these crazy people, they tried to kill me in Valneva, now they're here too, what are they doing?
Yeah.
And just, he's very freaking out. And he's trying to get to the window to get away, but it just keeps not working out for him. And
and the room's still on fire.
Yeah, Aurora
throughout the whole adventure, just keep remembering. Also, the room's on fire.
Aurora, instead of fighting, snuffed the fire on like the one side of the wall. So she spent some time snuffing fire because she didn't know what to do, and Cricket wasn't doing anything. Calvin and Henry and Hank were attacking the old guy.
Hank was attacking the old guy.
Yeah, Hank is totally on Henry and Calvin's side. Like, he's like, this guy's a war criminal, he needs to die.
Yeah.
And finally, I think that, I don't know if there's anything happened before this, but the turning point was...
Also, by the way, Serendipity Van Goldstrider Malore, she decides not to run into the burning building filled with crazy maniacs. So she's on the ground outside the window to provide fire support if needed.
She starts organizing a bucket brigade. So like the whole inn isn't on fire. It's just the one room at this point. But I mean, no one's doing anything about the fire, so it's just spreading. Aurora's she snuffed the one wall. But
that's the situation. And then something happened that made everything go crazy.
Yeah, the turning point was when Croesus decided, well, nothing. We're at an impasse. People are fighting each other. Let's just knock out this guy, and then we'll be able to deal with it. So he starts attacking the old guy, and he actually crits and knocks him down, and the old guy is freaking out. And
I think Cricket at that point is like, well, I guess I have to fight him now.
Yes, and someone like, I don't know if you were ordered or if it was the party's will is to fight him. So Cricket also attacked him.
Yeah. After I took a stab for him, I turned around and attacked him.
So at that point, the old guy stands up, is fine, and he manifests this giant ice sword that like sublimates out of the air. And this ice armor completely covers him from head to toe, and he just starts mashing into Hank, and he like takes him down to bloodied in one round, just totally like starts destroying him.
It turns out he actually, we still don't know for absolutely sure that he was the Butcher of Bracken Ridge. He could have just been some other super strong warrior guy with painted slaves and
like a hexblade or something.
The weapon was like a special weapon that could appear and disappear.
We mentioned it earlier that it was known that was his telltale thing. Like before he was known as the Butcher of Bracken Ridge, he was just a general, and he was known for his ice theme, right? He had this ice armor and this giant ice sword.
Okay.
It was all enchanted and stuff to do that.
And
So it turns out he probably was
the Butcher of Bracken.
I'm now like 99% sure.
So that totally changes everything when he actually starts attacking, and all the debate over whether we should like take this guy to interrogate him or whatever is sort of over.
No, there's still plenty of moralizing to do.
There is, but it seemed like everyone was sort of in the mode. Well, now we've got to at least attack him.
Yeah.
We can't no one's on the side of let's let him run away.
I tried using a cinematic point, I should mention, just before everything went crazy. When Cricket took the stab for the Butcher, I tried using a cinematic point to do a cinematic diplomacy to try and be like, can't we all get along? Can we sort this all out?
Yeah.
And John was like, that's an epic thing, really. Yeah. So I'll let the cinematic point maybe allow you to try.
Yeah.
And so I made a diplomacy check and I flubbed it.
Well, because these guys, he's trying to convince these two Eve hunters who devoted their whole life to killing Eve, and this is like the guy they want to get the most. They spent their whole life getting him. They've got him in a room, and then someone's gonna be like, no, can't we all just get along? Like, that's an epic diplomacy.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't so much can we all get along. It was sort of let's check to make sure that he's the Butcher of Bracken Ridge before we murder him.
It's sort of like, convincing Magneto to stop killing Nazis. But
we need to make sure they're Nazis.
Yeah. Well, he should.
but
maybe it's just a cosplayer.
But
it's just the Prince of England.
No,
Halloween.
I said a possible Paragon level thing might be convincing them to afterwards sit down and think about what they've done and and at least reconsider the course of their lives. It wouldn't affect this encounter, but they might reconsider. But they still failed.
I flubbed the roll, and so I didn't spend the cinematic point. It was one of those things where cinematic points are reliable. So if it doesn't work, you get to keep it.
Yeah.
Well, for the most part, they let you auto-succeed in something, but if it's something that's way beyond your level, if you're heroic and it's a Paragon level thing, you still have to roll. You have a chance, something you wouldn't have a chance at, but if you fail, you just keep it.
Phase 1 of the moral dilemma has been resolved.
Right.
We now are pretty darn sure it's Butcher of Bracken Ridge. And so the fight is joined. And everyone's sort of on the same side, except the Butcher of Bracken Ridge, obviously. So we start pounding on him. And things are going great until we manage to get him below the first pain slave threshold. And it does that thing where a pain slave goes away, and we're like, yeah, right, of course. We have to murder our way through his layers of ablative hostage armor. And John, being the horribly cruel DM that he is, doesn't allow non-lethal damage to counter that. So Aurora and Cricket try grappling this guy. He's like this, in plate armor with a big sword, and he's like, I'm the super evil, nasty guy. And so little Aurora and little Cricket, the two winsome lasses of the party, we try tackling him. And we both try spending our cinematic points. So we both try spending our cinematic points in an epic tackle. We're trying to pile on him and incapacitate him. And John's like, that's kind of epic too. And we were like, well, can we at least grab his sword away and then maybe we can try to pile on later? And he was like, all right, you can try pulling the sword away. And we both flub our rolls completely. And so we don't spend our cinematic points. And the fight proceeds as a normal fight. And Hank is keeping a tally every time a pain slave dies.
Yeah, because they'll just be in the middle of the fight and be like, I do 12 damage. And
yeah.
That was really well done.
He did that every time. So
throat was getting a little bit sore by the end of the night.
So it was a bit of a challenging fight because it was a solo. So he had a pile of hit points, he had action points, he had bonuses to his saving throw. But it was a wee tiny room, and we were all crammed in around him. He got to the window, but then Serendipity Van Goldstrader Malore put a flaming sphere just outside the window, so he couldn't go through that. He couldn't get out the window. Now, he had special resistance against fire damage.
Which was interesting because he was basically standing there almost... Well, he was taking a bit of damage from the flaming sphere, but he was almost completely ignoring the flaming sphere damage. Meanwhile, the party was right next to the flaming sphere too and was taking flaming sphere damage. But that flaming sphere was really keeping him from jumping out the window easily, especially because people kept doing stuff like dazing him or stuff that made it so it was hard for him to... He couldn't take two actions for one reason or another.
And Aurora did that thing that weakens everyone adjacent to her, and she was crammed in next to him, so he was weakened for half the fight.
Yeah, that really sucked for him. He was doing some massive damage, but then he got pulled next to Aurora, he was weakened, and he critted twice during that time. And so, one crit would have done, I think, 36 damage, and the other one 40, but they were both weakened, which halves it. Lucky for the party.
I only took off one of Cricket's wins.
Let's see. Cricket did take a couple of hits early in the fight because Croesus had marked him
I was just looking for it, but I'm going to try one of these first.
And Croesus's mark made it so that when he damaged a non-marked person, he took that damage as well. And so at one point, Cricket was like, I want to hit him. Like, you'll draw an attack of opportunity. And I was like, yes, please. Because I was at full hit points, I could take a hit, and it would hurt him.
And it was interesting, because early in the fight, he was actually choosing to defy the mark and attack the weaker characters, because it was just killing pain slaves anyway. So, he was going through his pain. He was pretty cocky early in the fight. Like, he figured he could easily just kill the whole party. The only reason he didn't earlier is because he wanted to keep up the old man facade. Mm-hmm. As he started to run out of pain slaves, though, his attitude changed a bit.
But by that point, we had started to get quite adept at locking him down. We sort of figured his strategy was to try and get out the window and run. Or just run in general. And so we kept ourselves crammed around him. Henry almost screwed it up at one point when he tried moving around to a better position and at the same time left a path out. Whoa! He would have drawn like 8 attacks of opportunity, but he could have taken that path out. But fortunately, he was dazed at that time.
I think that might have been the time that...
it was right, Aurora had that weird thing.
Most of it was all Aurora's fault.
Yeah.
She was... Because she weakened him, and then she also... she did this thing, right when he could have escaped, she did this thing where it wasn't just that he was dazed, he couldn't take any move actions. He couldn't walk or run as a move action. So he basically couldn't move. He could shift, but he got all these penalties, and there was actually nowhere he could shift to, because you can't shift out a window. You can't climb up onto a bed. There was nowhere that he could shift to, so it basically meant so he couldn't move.
Yeah.
And that was like towards the end of the fight when he was starting to run out of pain slaves. And, I don't know how many they killed, probably 7 or 8 by that time.
He had 11 in total.
11 bits.
We killed 11 innocent people. And then we let those 2 other guys get away afterwards too. So
They may not have been innocent.
killed 2 innocent, killed 1 guilty, let 2 guilty go.
Yeah. So
I wasn't terribly happy about the outcome of the fight.
they could tell he was starting to get nervous, and then they heard the 11.
Then we laid into him.
And then someone hit him. I don't remember who it was, and he grunted with pain, like, ugh.
And then we were like, yes! And then we piled on.
And he had an escape tactic, but he left it too long. And that stupid fireball was in the window. There isn't actually rules for how to deal with that, but it can't be an impassable barrier. So I said, well, okay, he can bull rush it and take some damage. So he attempts to bull rush it, but he's completely surrounded. There are 3 people around him. Oh, yeah, another thing Aurora did. Aurora was like, it was this guy's bane the whole time. She was I think she was definitely the MVP of the fight, because she also put a thing on him that he made him vulnerable 6, I think, to all damage.
Oh, yeah.
So anyone who hits him does 6 extra damage.
Ah, yes.
And so he jumps at the window. All 3 people hit him with their attacks of opportunity, and it only took 2 of them. They just completely killed him. So they all just... And so I said they all hit him, and his dead body just falls at the... Is that snake bite? The last one. Oh man, I gotta get the last snake bite. It's my favorite. That's why I held it up. So they all hit him. His dead body falls out the window, crashes right in front of Serendipity.
Then Goldstride and Malore.
They didn't knock him out?
They didn't knock him out. No one was in the mood to knock him out anymore.
At that point,
not even the party. They're like, yeah, we kill him.
Yeah. Well, the whole reason for not killing him is now gone, right? So...
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I don't know what I would do in a situation like that. Like, I guess technically people rolled their roles in an order, but like 3 people killed him at once. I guess it would be a voting system.
I would...
Did anyone kill him? I didn't.
But everyone just wanted to kill him.
It's like the old firing squad thing where they give some of the firing squad blanks, so that no one knows for sure that they're the ones that killed the guy.
Right.
You can sleep at night. I actually used that line because afterwards we had a big discussion about the morality of what we had done. We're such a weird D&D group, aren't we? I'm like, okay, now let's review this fight and consider the morality of what we've done. I can't remember who it was, but was it Hank maybe, or maybe it was Aurora, who started trying to convince themselves that, the pain slaves, the pain slaves were probably living in miserable, horrible conditions, and this was, a mercy killing. And Cricket was like, whatever helps you sleep at night. You can believe that.
Yeah, so
because I don't think typically pain slaves are kept under horrible conditions, because why would you? You want them to be healthy.
So they actually got the fire out before it was, that room was wrecked, but the inn was generally fine. Probably some smoke damage in nearby rooms, but yeah, they went through the butcher's stuff, and they found his signature weapon and armor. They're both, one is the sword is a frost brand. It's a unique sword.
Okay, yeah.
And it's
That's a really good sword, actually.
And it has the additional property that it just sublimates out of the air, so you sort of like being called. And also his armor, it was made of ice, but really it's just summoned armor, it's summoned plate mail. So it doesn't have any special properties except you can make it appear.
Also the guy's autobiography titled If I Did It.
No, he didn't have any other evidence on him.
Hypothetical biography. It was like, if I was the Butcher of Bracken Ridge, this is how I did it.
He had a bunch of his emergency money on him, which is quite a bit. It was like 4,000 gold, mostly in platinum.
I think Cricket's next priority is to investigate the rules around bolas and nets and saps and all those sorts of things. Poisons won't work, so we can't drug him or something. But yeah, nets and stuff. If we're going to go up against people with pain slaves again, and I somehow suspect we will, glare.
I'm not the one who killed 11 innocent people.
But did you really foresee them being able to take them down without killing those 11 people?
That's not my fault. I just arbitrate the rules as they are.
He thought the guy would get away. That's what he thought.
Not John's fault. It was a pretty creative.
Brian and Robin tried, but
yeah. Several other party members were a bit more bloodthirsty. I think if we had just all piled on top of him and smothered him under the weight of our corpses, perhaps it would have resolved better, but yeah. What do I know? I'm just a domestic.
There are knockout poisons.
It won't work because they'll affect the pain slaves instead of him.
Yeah, but if you keep doing it,
that's true. We could knock out all of his pain slaves.
Similar to how I was saying, you could just keep petrifying him over and over again. Mm-hmm. And at least those pain slaves are alive somewhere, just petrified.
Yeah. So how would that work if it's like there's a gas in the room or something? Would every round another pain slave go unconscious or something like that?
Probably.
Well, something to look into then, definitely.
Because we were discussing drowning. And, if you're just held underwater indefinitely, eventually all your pain slaves would drown and then you would drown.
Yeah.
We all start holding our breath.
So it seems like it really be applied to the same pain slave multiple times, because when you've been knocked out, you can keep taking nautical damage.
It's true.
And so there's nothing to stop the same pain slaves from being like...
That's true.
Stop it!
You're thus making them immune to non-lethal damage.
Stop giving John...
You have to kill them.
Stop telling John.
The status effect that's applied to one, and it keeps being applied, it has to apply to something else.
Yeah.
John. It's the same thing like with death.
They don't stack. They don't stack, right?
But death breaks the limit.
There we go.
Death is the status effect.
Yeah, if you consider death a status effect, then it would be
Anyway.
So,
nets. I'm definitely looking at nets.
After this all transpired, they checked out to see if that camp of guys was still there, and they weren't. But they got... Henry and Calvin are like, I don't even know what I'm going to do with my life next. We just we killed the last important one. I don't know, man. But they said, well, you guys owe us a favor. Because it became apparent during the fight that if the party hadn't showed up, Henry and Calvin would have just died.
Yeah.
Like, Calvin blew all of his stuff and then he's just sitting there magic missiling every round, doing 5 damage. And Henry without a flank, Henry with a flank wasn't that great, and without a flank he was useless. And so they would have just died totally if the party hadn't showed up. And
he did a lot of sneak attack damage. It wasn't that bad. But he only did the sneak attack damage because we were there giving him, dazing this guy, giving him flanking
it
bonus.
wasn't that great. Like, he was doing like 10 to 15 a round.
It's alright. It contributed. It contributed,
but...
Thank you.
Calvin was the mostly useless one.
It's built into the cost of the food,
There you
people. You must not have kids. That's
It's
a moral gray area for me.
I got a bucket once.
Did you wear it out?
I has a bucket. No, they be stealing my bucket.
No more guys.
Yeah, I know. They all do eventually.
They were like, so Henry, you...
I did pretty well so far.
You're not a walrus. Cuckoo cachoo.
So where'd you guys end it?
Cuckoo cachoo. All right. I accept the
I
correction.
can't because Brian's closer to the recorder, so...
And my stupid rambling about Beatles songs. Oh yes, speaking of songs. I'm going to spend my cinematic point composing a song about all this.
I think that would.
To make sure that Cricket's viewpoint is the one that history remembers.
Did I take a more talk?
No, I think I'm okay with that.
Isn't it great to be a bard?
Yes.
So, yeah, they were like, so, you guys owe us, because without us you would be totally dead. So, could you help us track this group of, these
Time-traveling wizards!
this group of 10 mages that, like, murdered a town, and they're like, yeah, that sounds awful. Anyone who murdered a town, I mean, that's as bad as being an Eve. So, yeah, sure, we'll help. And so they're going to help them track down the 10 murdering time mages.
Followers!
And,
Followers that I consider to be horrible murderers. That
Wait, what did they do? They just killed the Butcher of Bracken Ridge with you.
they slit that mayor's throat.
who had evidence that
He was like some like super awesome Red Cross type guy.
who fought in the Eve War on the Eve side, so they
Which automatically makes him evil.
Hey, he knew what he was getting into.
No, maybe he didn't. Or maybe he just wanted to save as many lives as he could, and if he joined the other side, he'd be considered
I
traitor.
bet he was the Butcher's twin brother.
Was it
Secret lover.
Did anyone ask? Was it a twin of the Butcher?
We don't know what transpired between the Butcher and this guy. Presumably, I mean, he was on the list. He was on the list, right? So, presumably, the Butcher was like, I'd like to seek refuge in this town, fellow horrible war criminal. And he's like, but I'm not a fellow horrible war criminal. I like babies. Get out of my sight, or I'll tell everyone. In fact, I think I will tell everyone. And
No,
so the
great sword. Oh god!
and then the Butcher was like, well, all right, Mr. Not So Evil, after all, I'll go try my next contact. And the guy was like, good, finally the last horrors of my past are gone and will never haunt me again.
He lets his guard down.
And I am forever free of comeuppance.
Now,
Stab! Yeah, and then this guy comes in the window and is like, "Wah-ha, this guy had something to do with the Butcher of Bracken Ridge. I don't know what. They talked at one point. Oh, he must have infected him with his evil. Stab, stab, stab. Oh, look, it's a picture of his loving family. Defile."
We had a dog.
Yeah, we're the ones that murdered the dog. That was a couple of adventures ago.
So, sorry. Killed the old guy in the hotel.
Yeah.
Or inn or whatever. What happened after that?
We put out the fire. It was a big fight. It was the whole session.
And with all the pain slaves they killed, they had to go through 700 hit points.
Yeah.
Wow. So it
At level 5?
Yeah. It took a while.
Yeah.
This is such an amazing mechanic for you as a DM. You're like, oh, he's not supposed to die yet. Oh, yeah, pain slave.
Nets. Bolas. bear traps, all kinds of stuff.
Yes, condoms.
Manacles. Manacles.
I need to find an excuse to use that in my campaign as well.
Just bring in John and again the voice.
Yeah. What's John doing here? Just wait for it.
Wait for it.
Quit, John.
That one's a little bit more eagle-like, actually.
Well, things could have gone better. In fact, it's somewhat difficult to figure out how they could have gone worse. That's not entirely true. None of my owners died. That's very important. So yes, in that regard, everything worked out okay. But, the Butcher of Bracken Ridge. So it was him. And we had to kill 11 pain slaves to get to him. He's dead now, that's good, I suppose. But those 11 pain slaves, I don't know if we'll ever know their names. And the question becomes, who's to blame? Who's to blame? Well, obviously the Butcher of Bracken Ridge held pain slaves. But why did they die? Well, it's because of those two blasted... those bounty hunters. If they had never shown up, well, none of their friends would be dead, because we killed several of them back when they were murdering an old man in a street, as far as we could tell. And now that I think of it, quite possibly they killed some pain slaves right then. We don't know. It's hard to say. But anyway, if they had just left well enough alone, the Butcher of Bracken Ridge would have lived out his life as a baker or whatever it was that he was up to. And those 11 pain slaves would have lived out their lives wherever they're living. So I think I blame those bounty hunters. And unfortunately, they're going to get away with it, I think. Well, such is life. There are many injustices in this world. I suppose I'll have to just be satisfied with the fact that the Butcher of Bracken Ridge is dead. And let it be known that pain slavers don't get away with it. Perhaps that will help save lives in the future.
I ask you, how intelligent is it to go running into a burning building? One that may, in fact, contain a serious psychopathic murderer. Not very. It's much more intelligent to stay outside, and he'll have to come out of the burning building. On the plus side, found out, yes, he really was a murdering psychopathic killer. Always good to find out before you kill them. And he had a lot of pain slaves, so I'm fortunate that they died, but good that we stopped him. Dear Diary, it's the middle of the night. We got here and, Cricket was very tired. I could tell. Oh, she's so sweet. She was pretending she wasn't tired, but she was. And being tired doesn't help us make decisions. There was a moment where Cricket and I knew what we needed to do. All we had to do was subdue him, right? Like, just tie him up. That's all we needed to do. And if we'd all just, grappled him, jumped on him, we could have done it. But nobody, I don't know why everyone decided that he should be killed. Like, where's the justice in that? It's not justice. To kill someone isn't justice. By killing him, you're just setting him free. He does not, there's no opportunity for him to, in any way, make make any movement towards change or towards helping those he harmed or whatever if he's dead. There is no opportunity for him to change and for anything to get better. And so now he's just gone because we have killed him. 11 innocent people are also dead. Who knows where they were? I said to Cricket after, like, well, maybe they were living in a horrible situation. You know, maybe they were tied to a wall somewhere or something. And she said, well, if that makes you feel better, you can think that. And it's a good point. Like, we have no idea. They could have been just working on a farm, just like I was. I remember working on my farm when I lived in the Eastland, and my cow, Lana, she was such a good cow. She had the biggest eyes. Oh, she was sweet. She was so smart. Oh, I miss her. She was such a good cow. You know, I don't remember very much from that lifetime, but I sure remember her. I remember leaning my head against her flank while I milked her, and just the smell of the barn and the alfalfa, that's a kind of hay that she was eating. And there was this sheep. Her name was Rhonda. And for some reason, usually sheep flock together, but for some reason, Rhonda always hung out with the cow. It's like she thought she was a cow. She was bonded with Lana. And so it was just funny. Like, Lana and Rhonda would come in to the barn at the same time. You always milk at the same time every day. And Rhonda would come and she would stand right beside Lana while I milked. Lana, that's the cow. And Rhonda would share Lana's hay. And of course I didn't milk Rhonda. I didn't want any old mutton milk. Yeah, it was good times. And then I woke up under a tree because I died because I was a pain slave too, I guess. I don't know. I don't remember that death. I just remember waking up and being confused. But that was a long time ago. Cricket's pretty upset. I hope that after she gets a good night's sleep, she'll feel better. I don't know how to help her. I don't know how to deal with this. I guess we have to just do our best, and when we're in the moment, try to make a good decision. But this is just a horrible, horrible thing that people do to each other. I'm going to bed.
So, pain slavery presents an interesting dilemma. So we found the Butcher of Bracken Ridge, and we confirmed it was him. He finally decided to pounce. And so we killed him, but we had to get through 11 pain slaves first. And that's where the dilemma comes in, because, you know, our actions caused the pain slaves to die. But I've also been taught, and I believe this, that the pain slaves were effectively dead as soon as they became pain slaves. It's not my fault that they died. It's his fault because he's the pain slaver. So I guess that absolves some guilt, but other people don't seem to see it the same way, and I don't blame them. But at the same time, we had to bring this guy to justice. If we let him live, then he could continue to do all sorts of atrocities. And when would it end? Well, it ended today, so yeah. Now that all that fighting's gone, I'm going back to bed.
Man, Cricket and Aurora are really mad about those pain slaves there. I keep trying to explain to them that sometimes when you're down there, when we went down there to die, see, and being a pain slave is like being on detached duty. You're already dead. They don't seem to understand this, and I keep trying to tell everyone that it's okay, that it's all a dream, and that everyone's gonna go home. I'm gonna wake up, and I'm gonna keep my promise, see? And no one seems to understand that's the way it is, because we're all going home.